Perfect, Vivek. We're live now. So, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining. We're deeply moved by the immense love and the immense traction that we've been getting. So many of you filled our form. We got more than 200 questions, and just in the first day itself. And we were very surprised that, there are so many of you out there wanting to talk to us and understand from us what is happening in the portfolios and in the stock markets. So, welcome to all of you. Today, the agenda is a little different. We are not covering the rebalance update for the last year because we have already done that for January, for example, and the performance deep dive of 2023 has already been done in the last webinar that happened just 10 days back. So, today we will answer all the questions that you guys asked us in the Google form. What we have done is we have segmented the questions into different categories. And we saw that more or less there were 10 to 15 questions that were constantly repeating, 10 to 15 different themes that were repeating in the questions. So we've clubbed all of them together and we've prepared some data around the questions you've asked, which Vivek will be presenting just in a while. So keep asking questions in the chat box as well. But our priority for today would be to answer the questions that have been filled in the Google form because they were 200 plus and we only have so much time. We'll be happy to extend the webinar time duration also if people stick around and all the questions are not answered. So stay with us and let's begin. Vivek, if you could please share your screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, Vivek, I think it's loading. Yes, perfect. Thanks, Vivek. So I think this is the agenda for today. As everyone can see, these are the themes that we got questions on. The performance, our PMS products, rebalance frequency, then things about the market, it's at an all-time high. So is this a right time to invest? Do we expect a correction? Uh, what is Gulaq and what is the stock selection process, the market cap, etc. A little bit more about the economy that, will the elections impact the stock markets? What to do on IRFCs, like one stock that has been questioned about multiple times by you guys. And then certain operational questions on withdrawing money or investing in lump sum SIP, etc. So we will try to cater to all of these and we've prepared some slides which answer these questions for you. So if we talk about the first one, I will quickly pull out that form list. And there are tons of questions. Okay, so about these, the returns. So we have Amit, we have Prem, we have Yogesh. So many people asking the same question on whether our portfolios perform well in bear markets also. So Vivek, your inputs, if you could share some content.
Sure. Thank you, Eesha. So we have some data to share. And this is primarily, we have all seen the last 3.5 years performance, and pretty much the market has been in a bull run since then, since we launched our portfolios. There was one flat period of 2022, even in that year, our performance was pretty good. But what we wanted to share today was much more exhaustive data on bear market. So we have tested our portfolios since 2012. So almost 13, 14 years of data that we have tested. And in this data, as you can see, we have this is a drawdown of small case, the live portfolio versus the BSE 500. And today I want to focus on these three time periods where we saw decent correction in BSE 500. One was in 2013, where markets fell about maybe 12-13%. Then in 2015-16, where we saw a correction of about 20%. And then 2020, where we saw a correction of almost 30%. But this is not only 2020 because the years prior to that, 18 and 19, were also not good. We had started seeing that correction of 10%. And we were not able to recover that from that correction, and then the COVID crash happened. So we'll focus on this time period of 18 to 20. Okay, so let me take you through the first bear market, if you can call it, where we saw almost 10% drawdown, and this started in about December 2012. Markets fell to about maybe 12-13% and then recovered back. So I've not only taken the trough, but I've also taken how much time it took to correct and how Gulaq portfolio performed. Again, this is back-tested data, but we get some sense of how what happened actually. So markets corrected by about 12-13% and then recovered. So this was a total time frame of almost maybe 13 to 14 months. And during this month, what we saw was a maximum drawdown here. So our maximum drawdown was maybe less than 5%, right? And in that 14-month period where markets fell and recovered, we were able to do roughly more than 30%, right? So this was the first time period where we saw about 12-13% correction. In second, we saw about 20% correction. During this time, Gulaq portfolios fell about 12-13% versus 20% correction. And in the time when the markets recovered, again, this was from Feb 2015 to about June, July 2016. So roughly about 1.5 years period in which Gulaq portfolio gave about 12%, whereas markets just recovered. And even the max drawdown was about 12% versus 20% for BSE 500. Okay. And the third data point that we wanted to share was this market where markets fell almost 25. This is markets actually fell more, but this is month end data. So during the month, markets actually fell more, but by the end of the month, they recovered a bit. And that's why we are seeing this data of about 25% correction. But overall, if you see, uh, the years prior to that, 2018 and 19 also I have considered, the markets were pretty much flat. And markets, by markets, I mean the multi-cap index, they were pretty much flat. Then they fell and recovered. And during this time when the markets were flat, even during this time, Gulaq was able to give more than 50% returns. But if you consider the whole period, and this is quite a bit of data, 18, 19, and 20, almost 3 years of data, where in that 3 years we were able to give 30%, 80% versus here just about maybe 7-8% overall for the whole year. So this gives us some sense about how uh, the Gulaq portfolio would have performed in the past corrections, in past 10 years, whatever corrections we have seen. So I think in all these three corrections, what we have seen is two things. One is we are falling lesser than the broader market. And second is the recovery is pretty fast. So we are able to recover fast, generate alpha, and also falling less, right? I've also given here a bit of data about the bull markets where markets were just rising and without any specific correction. So one is this period from 12 to 15 where markets rose almost 100% and we rose maybe from 100 to 200 and we rose 100% extra, so about 300%. Second bull market, this one from 16 to 18, where markets rose about maybe 75% and we were able to give 120% in this market. And the third one is since May 2020, since March was the bottom. Since March till date, uh, the markets rose about 250%. So market rose about 150%. We are starting from 100, and we gave about maybe 500% returns. So this is the data point that we have. Apart from what we have earlier shared, the live track record, this is the data that we have related to the bear markets and bull markets.
Perfect. Okay. So I hope the questions about returns and our deep dive of our performance have been answered. Now moving on to the next theme, which is PMS. So we got a lot of questions. To start with, Sarang asked that he's interested in long alpha PMS and he's not sure if the capital with PMS provider is safe as compared to mutual fund AMCs. Then Hemant asked if to invest in PMS, but what is the difference between Gulaq and PMS and what is the strategy? And Indrajit asked if what are the returns of the PMS like after tax deduction, brokerage, AMC charges, etc. So these are all the questions around PMS that we've got.
Okay. So first thing about safety, I think one of the best things I like about our ecosystem here, investments is SEBI is very conscious about the investor protection and all the rules, whether it's related to brokers or PMS or mutual funds. I think they are so strict that the small investors are well taken care of, and that's the best thing. Sometimes we as a business might feel uh, hassles in doing those things, but those we in Gulaq and in ST, we understand why SEBI is creating those specific rules, and they are actually for the betterment of the small retail investors, which help us overall as a business grow. I mean, this industry. So those, I think regarding safety, frankly, whether it's PMS or mutual funds or even the small case portfolios, I think the rules around these are so strict that uh, the retail investors are pretty safe hands. So that is what I'd like to comment. Speaking specifically about our PMS, that PMS, it has the same methodology as that of Gulaq Gear 6. In that we started that about 2 years before we started Gulaq portfolio. So it has 5+ years of live track record. Last year returns were in that about 58% versus 26% BSC 500. So it's a pretty healthy alpha that we have been generating over the years. And even last year, in PMS, the minimum investment size is 50 lakhs, and the fees of that PMS is less than 1%. Okay. And compare it to the maybe equity mutual funds, which have a fees of maybe about 2% or so. So yeah, that's what it is. Regarding the performance, here is the performance. First, I'd like to take you through the back-tested performance. That's about 12 years of data in which BSC has given a CAGR of 12%. Gulaq in that same time frame has given 31%, whereas the PMS has given about 29%. So there's in terms of number of stocks that we have in PMS, it's very diversified. We have about 80 stocks in PMS versus 12 to 15 in Gear 6. So Gear 6 is a very good portfolio for somebody who is investing maybe a couple of lakhs. But anyone who is wanting to invest about 50 lakhs or higher amounts, there we offer same methodology but a diversified version. And that helps us in controlling the drawdowns also. See, if you see, the maximum drawdown of BSC 500 is 30%. In Gulaq Gear 6, it's 26, whereas the PMS, it is minus 22%. So the diversified nature of that PMS helps us control the drawdowns as well, right? Uh, I also wanted to compare the PMS with live track record. So Gulaq 6 has grown at 60%, whereas the PMS has grown at about 40%. Now, there's a small difference in these two. These two are not directly comparable because first thing is in the PMS, the returns 39% are shown after all the cost, be it transaction cost, the brokerages, or the slippages. Whereas Gulaq Gear 6 is the gross returns, right? Uh, that is one thing that is clear. And second thing is, over the last 2.5 or 3 years, Gulaq Gear 6 has actually outperformed by a wide margin the PMS. But our expectation is, as we can see from the back-tested data, our expectation is over long run, there is definitely going to be some alpha over the PMS in Gulaq Gear 6, but it should not be too different from the Gear 6. Pretty much in the same ballpark. Anyone who wants more information about our PMS can visit pms.stadvisors.com or also can write to us at pms@stadvisors.com. Yeah. Yeah. So PMS, I think we covered.
Yes, perfect. The next theme is on rebalancing, Vivek. So, before moving on to some broader questions, there are some specific questions that came in that I would like to address. So, someone is asking if Tanmay Das is asking if you are rebalancing the portfolio with existing previous stocks of theirs as well. So, to answer your question, Tanmay, we are just focusing on the stocks that you've purchased through Gulaq. The small case ecosystem is working in a way that we are the advisors. We are giving the stock recommendations which are available to you on small case, which is the technology platform. So how the execution of the portfolio works is something that small case covers. Now, similarly, there is a question from Praful. He's saying that he joined Gulaq Gear 6 on 15th of Jan this year. And while placing the order, he could not modify the buy order to kind of not buy stocks that he had already purchased previously. While this is possible, so whenever you are buying or you're either buying or you are rebalancing, you will be able to modify the quantity, but we suggest you do not, because the portfolio is made keeping in mind certain risk and return parameters and a lot of other factors. So tweaking the portfolio is not really recommended. If you want to do it, it is still possible. Praful, I see you're saying that you were unable to review your order and do plus minus in the quantity. That should not have been the case. You can reach out to our support team, because we rebalance. Vivek, our team also is an investor in Gulaq, and we do this regularly. So we do have that option. But like I said, we do not change. We stick to what is being recommended, because it's recommended keeping in mind a lot of different factors. And if you are trying to incorporate your already bought stocks into the portfolio, that won't be possible, because the system is designed in a way it cannot see the holdings that you already have. We can only see the holdings that you have through us, the stocks that you've purchased through us. We cannot give advice on the stocks that you already bought or sold previously. So this
So
is
I
a
think, Isha,
yeah.
in this, the best thing to do is, obviously people have their own views and they want to buy or sell. I think the best thing one can do is keep small case in a different brokerage account, and
Yes.
whatever your personal views are, and those might be, you might have some other stocks or the stocks which are there in Gulaq portfolio, keep
Hmm.
them in a different with a different broker, so that these two are separate, and
Hmm.
whatever your views are, you can maybe express it in that separate in another brokerage account, whereas one brokerage you can just keep for Gulaq small case only. I've seen a lot of investors practice that and it has worked well. So
Yeah.
that is one thing that can be tried.
Perfect. I think that's a great advice. Then Poonam is asking if we can have only 10 stocks in year six in the next rebalancing. I don't know the reason, but Vivek, do you have any answer to that?
No, I don't think we are going to have 10. Normally, the range is between 12 to 15. That's what we have.
Hmm.
So I don't think we have ever had 10 stocks in our portfolio. And I don't know the reason also why she's asking for
Yeah,
only 10 stocks. But
right.
the way we create portfolios is, again, just to highlight this thing that we want to optimize for obviously the maximum returns, but in a risk adjusted return fashion. So the Sharp ratio, which is
Right.
a measure of highest returns given a same or lower amount of risk, that's what we are trying to optimize here.
Got it. And then certain other questions on rebalancing are where Kumuri, Nagamani, and Naveen are asking a question where they're saying that can we give the buy price of the stocks at which we are recommending them to buy it, so that either they can place a limit order or they could time it or see how much slippage will be applicable on it if they have the buy price from us.
No. We'll try to see slippage, frankly, it's tough to track because everyone executes these orders at different time of day or even different days also. So
Hmm.
for everyone, this slippage is going to be very, very different. And I think we have noted down this point
Hmm.
because this is something that we, small case, we can actually talk to the small case team.
Hmm.
And if they can actually calculate what's the buy price and the actual buy price versus the recommended price and what is the slippage everyone is getting. So
Right.
that is something that can be included in the platform, and that we will forwarding it this request to the small case team.
Hmm.
But having said that, I think what we have seen in our experience is up until day zero. So let's say if today was the rebalancing day, if
Hmm.
you are able to rebalance within 2 days of the rebalancing days, it does not have any meaningful impact on returns. But if you rebalance after that, what we have seen is there is a slight reduction in overall returns. So we have seen this in our tests. And if you are able to rebalance within 2 days, I think over slightly longer period, it's not going to have any meaningful impact. But
Right.
after 2 days, it's going to. So just try to rebalance within 2 days and you'll be fine. I think there will be definitely overall. What can happen is, let's say on the day of rebalance, market crashes by, let's say, 2%.
Hmm.
So what's going to happen is 2% now market is down. So the all the sell orders, you'll be getting the worst prices, right? You'll be
Right.
selling at 2% lower, but at the same time, same quantity or the same value, you'll be buying at 2% lower also. So market movement should not really have too much of an impact. Uh, On few days it can, but over long run it should not have too much of an impact. And just try to rebalance within the first 2 days.
Hmm.
Regarding slippages, we'll speak to small case if they can incorporate specific investor specific slippages that they have been encountering. Will
Hmm.
be an important data to have. So we'll talk to them.
Perfect. Great. Sure. Then one question by Satish Jaiswal that I can pick. There are other questions from him also, but this is regarding rebalancing. He's asking why 30th January has been considered the next rebalancing date instead of post budget on the 1st of February. Does this mean that you'll include budget and related market dynamic factors also? Then this was from Satish. A similar question from a lot of people
Yeah.
is it have we ever, so Manik is asking, have you ever considered switching the rebalance update to weekly or half monthly instead of monthly? While Atul is asking if we have looked at rebalancing on a quarterly or a 6 monthly duration.
Yeah.
And both of
So
them have provided their reasons, along with a lot of other people having that same question. So,
yeah.
what is our stance on it?
So our stance is clear. We have seen all these combinations, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, or even 6 monthly. And this is a data. This is just for representation of the trend. So the point I'm trying to make here is what happens is if you rebalance on a more frequent basis. So instead of monthly, let's say if I'm rebalancing on a weekly basis, so my gross profit is going to definitely increase. Excuse me. So my gross profit is increasing, but if you see the slippages and the transaction cost, that also goes up many folds, right? So net, as investor, what we are going to get is the gross profit minus the cost. So if you see that your gross profit is going up, but the costs are going up higher, and that's why my net profit in this example is coming out to be 24 minus 7, which is 17%. But even with the lower gross profit of 22% on monthly basis, if my costs here are reasonably low, then my net profit is higher than what I would get in a weekly basis. Okay. And same thing is with quarterly. So in quarterly, my slippage costs are reducing, but my alpha is also reducing. So instead of gross profit of 22%, I would actually be getting lower gross profit, which also reduces my overall net profit. So this is just for these numbers are just for explaining this, that what we have done tried to do is optimize this net profit. So we do take into account whatever backtests and models we develop. We do take into account some slippages, some transaction cost, and then we see where we are getting the best net profit. And what we have typically seen is monthly is the thing that where it's the right balance of uh, rebalancing frequency, higher rebalancing frequency, and lower cost. So that in our experience has worked well, and that is the best returns we have been able to generate in our models. And that's why we have this monthly frequency.
Right. Thanks, Vivek. So on rebalancing, this question is a little related to churn. Khizar Bilal is asking that sir monthly review करना तो समझ आता है, but every
Yeah.
month कुछ new stock ऐड करना जरूरी है क्या? कोई तो ऐसा मंथ होगा जब स्टॉक्स में कोई चेंज की जरूरत नहीं हो, और अगर न्यू स्टॉक्स ऐड कर रहे हैं तो न्यू सब्सक्राइबर्स को न्यू एंट्री मिल सकती है, बट ओल्ड सब्सक्राइबर्स के लिए गलत है क्योंकि इससे टर्नओवर हमारा इंक्रीज होता है. कैन यू डू समथिंग अबाउट इट? एंड सिमिलरली विवेक और भी बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं जहाँ पे पूछा गया है कि चर्न, आप ये जो चर्न है क्या आप इसको कम करने वाले हैं? यू हैड मेंशन्ड अबाउट लो चर्न strategy, when are you releasing it? So this question is also repeating.
तो ये जो डेटा अभी स्क्रीन पे है, दिस इज द चर्न और द टर्नओवर ऑफ लास्ट 12 months. And I think the average is coming out to be somewhere around 75% in this. ठीक है. और जो चर्न कम करने का प्लान है वो हमने लास्ट वेबिनार में भी बताया था कि our team always is working on multiple fronts, and one of the areas that we are looking at is how to reduce the churn, obviously without impacting the returns. And as I've told you, this research is in almost the final phase, and we might be releasing our new portfolio. New is the same portfolio, an improved portfolio in which we'll be able to reduce churn in either this rebalance or next rebalance. So within next 1 to 2 months, you're going to see substantial reduction in this churn. ठीक है, तो वो डेफिनेटली हमारा एम हमेशा रहता है कि हाउ कैन वी मेक आवर पोर्टफोलियोज बेटर। अब एक और क्वेश्चन ये था कि रिगार्डिंग न्यू स्टॉक्स,
राइट।
तो सी द पॉइंट हियर इज जो हमारे फैक्टर्स हैं जिसके बेसिस पे हम स्टॉक सेलेक्ट करते हैं, रफली 60% टेक्निकल फैक्टर्स रहते हैं। और टेक्निकल फैक्टर्स में जो डेटा पॉइंट्स मोस्टली आते हैं वो आते हैं प्राइस, वॉल्यूम, इस टाइप के डेटा पॉइंट्स जो कि ऑलमोस्ट डेली बेसिस पे चेंज होते हैं या मंथली बेसिस पे काफी ज्यादा चेंज हो सकते हैं। और फॉर रेस्ट 40% जो फैक्टर्स रहते हैं वो रहते हैं फंडामेंटल फैक्टर्स, कि हाउ स्ट्रॉन्ग फंडामेंटली अ कंपनी इज। तो अगर हम मंथली रिबैलेंस कर रहे हैं तो ये जो 60% मैंने बताया टेक्निकल फैक्टर्स, दे चेंज क्वाइट अ लॉट, जिसकी वजह से हमें डेफिनेटली एक मंथ में काफी ज्यादा डेटा अपडेट हो जाता है, जिसकी वजह से कुछ ना कुछ नए स्टॉक्स हमेशा आते रहेंगे। ठीक है, तो वो नए स्टॉक्स आई डोंट थिंक, ये जो आई थिंक somebody has mentioned कि इट्स गुड फॉर न्यू इन्वेस्टर्स, बैड फॉर ओल्ड इन्वेस्टर्स, आई डोंट थिंक इट्स बैड फॉर ओल्ड इन्वेस्टर्स, क्योंकि जो अल्फा भी प्रोड्यूस कर पा रहे हैं, जो एक्सेस रिटर्न्स हम प्रोड्यूस कर पा रहे हैं, वो चर्न या रीबैलेंसिंग की वजह से ही कर पा रहे हैं। तो जैसे मैंने पिछली स्लाइड में दिखाया कि देयर इज सम कॉस्ट अटैच्ड, तो रीबैलेंस करने में ऑब्वियसली कुछ कॉस्ट रहती है, बट द एडवांटेज, द बेनिफिट इज मोर ऑफ रीबैलेंसिंग। तो वो बेनिफिट इट्स नॉट ओनली फॉर न्यू कस्टमर्स, it is definitely for old customers as well. For anyone who is entering our portfolio, whether it's new or old, that benefit is for everyone. Equal benefit है, ठीक है, और वो हमेशा रहेगा। ऑब्वियसली जैसे मैंने बोला कि जो चर्न हम करने वाले हैं इन नेक्स्ट फ्यू मंथ्स, उसमें व्हाट इज मोस्ट लाइकली गोइंग टू हैपन इज कि अभी जैसे हमारे रफली 12 से 15 स्टॉक्स रहते हैं, हमारे स्टॉक्स थोड़े से इसमें इंक्रीज हो सकते हैं, और उसका इम्पैक्ट आएगा चर्न पे कि हमारा चर्न भी थोड़ा सा रिड्यूस, थोड़ा सा नहीं, आई थिंक डिसेंट डिफरेंस आ जाएगा हमारे चर्न में। तो दैट इज गोइंग टू हैपन ओवर नेक्स्ट मे बी 2 months or so.
Right.
But the benefit is definitely for old investors also and for new investors also.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vivek. Okay, so now I'll move on to the next theme, which is on the markets being at an all-time high and whether a correction is due, and whether people should invest lump sum or SIP, and how should they navigate. So picking out some specific questions. First one is Dr. Anil Kumar Sharma. He says a big thank you to the entire Gulaq team, as I've seen tremendous returns in my portfolio since I subscribed to Gear 6. My question is whether there is any possibility of correction in the market and what could be the sectors impacted. A similar question is from Rajat Dumeer and Gaurav Kumar Jha. They are asking if it is a good time to reserve some cash or liquid Bs in the portfolio as the markets are at an all-time high and correction is long due. So should we reduce allocation in stocks and sit in cash? Gaurav and Rajat are asking that question.
Okay. तो ये सब क्वेश्चंस मैं पहले तो एक स्टडी शेयर करना चाहूंगा रिगार्डिंग मार्केट टाइमिंग, जो हमने कुछ टाइम पहले की थी, एंड दिस वी हैव शेयर्ड अर्लियर आल्सो, बट इट्स ऑलवेज गुड टू लुक एट इट। सो इन दिस व्हाट वी saw was, if somebody invested 10,000 rupees every month in Sensex, so Sensex was formed in 1990s, and since then it has been almost 32-33 years. तो इतने सालों में अगर कोई हर महीने 10,000 रुपए इन्वेस्ट करता जा रहा है सेंसेक्स में, तो कैसी पोर्टफोलियो वैल्यू रहेगी। एंड हियर वी हैव कंसीडर्ड 4 इन्वेस्टर्स। मिस्टर लकी हैं, जो मार्केट टाइमिंग बहुत बढ़िया करते हैं, वो टेक्निकल एनालिसिस करते हैं, फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस, एंड ही इज लकी ऑल्सो कि वो हर मंथ के बॉटम पे इन्वेस्ट करते हैं वो 10,000 रुपीज। मिस्टर डिसिप्लिन है, जो जिनको कुछ नहीं समझ में आता, वो फर्स्ट ऑफ एवरी मंथ बस आंख बंद करके 10,000 रुपीज सेंसेक्स में इन्वेस्ट कर देते हैं। देन देयर इज मिस्टर लकी अनलकी, जो कि इतने अनलकी हैं कि हर मंथ वो जो मार्केट का पीक होता है उस पे इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, मंथली पीक पे वो हमेशा इन्वेस्ट करते हैं। ही इज सो अनलकी एंड ही हैज बीन डूइंग दिस फॉर एवरी मंथ फॉर लास्ट 32 इयर्स। एंड मिस्टर एफडी हैं, जो मार्केट उन्हें बहुत रिस्की लगता है और वो एफडी में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं। अब ये इनकी पोर्टफोलियो वैल्यूज दी गई हैं, and what is clearly visible is, I think here 2 points that I like to highlight. One is कि जो मिस्टर लकी हैं, जो इतना एफर्ट लगाते हैं, इतना टाइम लगाते हैं और लकी भी हैं, और हर मंथ वो बॉटम पकड़ लेते हैं, उनका पोर्टफोलियो और मिस्टर डिसिप्लिन का पोर्टफोलियो में कुछ खास डिफरेंस नहीं है. 2.3 crore versus 2.5 crore. Given the time Mr. Lucky would have spent in identifying the bottom, जो study की होगी stock specific, market specific, और जितनी tension ली होगी ये सब करने में, I really don't think it's worthwhile. It's very clear here कि it's the best investor is Mr. Disciplined, who has spent maybe close to zero time and has been investing, right? तो लॉन्ग टर्म में जो हमने काफी बार सुना भी हुआ है, इट्स नॉट टाइम इन द मार्केट, इट्स नॉट टाइमिंग द मार्केट, बट इट्स टाइम इन द मार्केट. So if you stay invested, even if you are unluckiest investor who just keeps on investing at the top, you still be much better off than staying outside the market, which is Mr. FD, right? And there's not so much of difference between luck and discipline. So best thing is, do not time the market. If your investment horizon is slightly longer term, 5 years, 10 years or more, then it really is not going to make much of a difference, frankly. उतना टेंशन हमें लेने की जरूरत नहीं है कि अभी मार्केट पीक पे है, अभी निकल जाते हैं, कुछ कैश में रख लेते हैं, क्योंकि उसमें फिर कैश में बहुत बार आप गलत भी होंगे. बहुत बार 6 महीने पहले भी मार्केट करेक्शन लोग बहुत ज्यादा एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे थे. अब अगर थोड़ी बहुत करेक्शन आ भी जाएगी तो देयर आर लॉट ऑफ पीपल हु वुड हैव वेस्टेड दिस फुल बिग मूव, एंड यू डोंट नो वेदर करेक्शन वुड कम. अभी भी हो सकता है कि ठीक है थोड़ा सा ओवर वैल्यूएशन है, बट इट कुड स्टिल बी इवन मोर ओवर वैल्यूड. So these things are very difficult to answer कि अभी पीक हो गया है और अब शॉर्ट टर्म में करेक्शन आएगा. I don't think anyone can really predict those kind of moves. So it's better to stay invested in the market if you're a longer term investor, and if you're just investing for a year or so, then I think you should not really be in equity markets. Then the debt markets is the place to be in. That's what our take is. I think I've answered about correction, about cash, about correction for long-term investors. Frankly, should not care about these things so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So another question on similar lines, Kaushik is asking that he had subscribed to Gear 6 in November 2022, but he was waiting for a correction. I think he
Okay.
means November 22, probably he means November last year. He says it is already up 26.81%. Okay, so it has to be probably last to last. And he has missed a golden opportunity. What should I do now? So he missed out on 26% returns even after subscribing because he did not invest. So what should be his move now that markets are at an
Yeah,
all-time?
see, the same thing that I was saying, that you never know what's going to happen. And 26% is actually, I think, since November only, because we had very good November, December, and even January is pretty good. So I think he meant just 3 months back, 4 months back, we have had about 25-26% returns. And as I was saying, see, the best thing is don't try to time the market. उतना tension लेने की बिल्कुल जरूरत नहीं है. Best thing is on the first of every month, select few good funds and just maybe blindly invest in that. Just filter out the noise. Basically, there's so much of noise. तो उस नॉइज से बस यही होता है कि we end up making mistakes like this. So 25%, otherwise he would have been already sitting in profit right now. But really, if you're investing for long term, just keep putting in money every month with discipline, and don't hear the analyst commentary कि अब बहुत overvalued हो गया है, अब mid cap, small cap में बहुत bubble आ गया है, अब large cap में. Best thing is select those kind of portfolios which will take care of all of these things, and which I'll just try to cover in next few slides. So here in 2022, the market gave about maybe 5 to 7% returns. This is the multi-cap index I'm talking about, right? Gulaq gave about 21%. So a decent 15-17% alpha we were able to produce in 22 in a very flat market, right? And look at the look at first 6-7 months also, maybe 6 months. We were just tracking the index. So really no difference between Gear 6 and the multi-cap index. The whole 15-17% alpha we were able to produce was in second half. So first point is, it's not that every time you'll be getting better than index returns. So there are possibilities that even for 6 months, Gulaq is not able to generate alpha. So that has, we have seen in the past, that can happen in the future also, right? But over 1 year, we did sufficiently well. Second thing is, you look at the market cap allocation here. So pretty much nothing was working. Maybe some large caps was working. So what happened in the first half was, excuse me, we were actually much more allocated to mid cap, almost 50% allocation in the first 5 months. And suddenly from June, the algo figures out that there's better opportunity in large cap, and in large cap over next 6-7 months, we had more than 50% allocation. And that's where all the alpha got created in the second half, right? So 2022 was actually about large caps, and we were able to generate decent alpha. Now let's look at what happened in 23. Okay. 23 again, for the first 3 months or so, 3 to 4 months, no alpha. We are just tracking the index, and we finished 23 at 70%, whereas index finished at about 25%. So again, very good alpha of 35% here. In fact, not 35, 45%, right? Now look at the allocation. 22, we finished with the major allocation in large caps, and that continued in first part of first 3, 4, 5 months of 23. We are majorly allocated to large caps. But what happened is, after that, when Algo decided that, okay, I see good opportunities in mid caps, in June, suddenly we shot up our overall allocation. And for the next 6-7 months, our allocation was maybe on an average 60% or so, right? And that's where all the alpha got created, right? So we can keep on having discussions as to अभी opportunities large cap में बहुत अच्छी हैं, mid cap और small cap बहुत overvalued हो गए हैं, all of those things. But the point I'm trying to make here is, the algorithm is such, the methodology is such, that it's already, all of these things are taken care of, right? So there are few questions that we'd like to answer. There's few questions, stock specific questions also.
Yeah.
So I'd not like to cover any specific stock. A lot of people want to hear about our views on IRFC
Yes.
and maybe few other stocks. So I'd not like to cover any stock specific, sector specific question here, but broader methodology which will give you some sense of safety, security in what we are trying to do here, right? So one is, it's multi-factor. And multi-factor में जैसे मैंने बताया कि 40% weightage is to fundamentals. तो अगर कोई भी स्टॉक बहुत ओवर वैल्यूड हो जाएगा, राइट, क्योंकि वो हम फंडामेंटल्स को ज्यादा वेट दे रहे हैं, तो वो बहुत एक्सपेंसिव हो जाएगा. इसका मतलब दैट इज ऑलरेडी फैक्टर्ड इनटू द मेथोडोलॉजी. इट्स बीइंग टेकन केयर ऑफ कि अगर कोई स्टॉक बहुत ओवर वैल्यूड हो गया, उसके फंडामेंटल्स उतने अच्छे नहीं है, राइट? सो ऑल अदर थिंग्स बीइंग इक्वल, एक स्टॉक जो बेटर फंडामेंटल्स हैं उसको ज्यादा वेट मिलेगा एज कंपेयर टू अ स्टॉक विच इज नॉट सो गुड फंडामेंटल्स. तो अगर हम एक स्टॉक को बहुत अच्छे फंडामेंटल्स वर्सेस खराब फंडामेंटल्स, तो वो फंडामेंटल्स हम देखते हैं, द एल्गो लुक्स एट दोस फंडामेंटल्स एंड देन डिसाइड्स कि इसको कितना वेट देना है, ठीक है? सेकेंड थिंग इज, एक लाइव ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड है. वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट बैक टेस्टेड डेटा कि ये हमने बैक टेस्ट किया और ऐसा होगा, राइट? What we are saying is, obviously we have that 12 years of back tested data, but we have a decent 3.5 years of live track record that we have been doing using this methodology. We have been able to create alpha year after year. Whether large caps have worked, whether mid caps or small cap have worked, I've just showed you that methodology takes care of it, and it's right there in front of everyone how this has worked. Another point is of that of flexi cap, कि हमारा कोई फेवरेट नहीं है. हम ये नहीं बोल रहे कि मिड कैप हमारा फेवरेट है या फिर स्मॉल कैप या लार्ज कैप. द मेथोडोलॉजी सीज कि कहाँ पे सबसे ज्यादा अच्छी अपॉर्चुनिटी है, और हम वहीं पे ही ज्यादा एलोकेट कर देते हैं थ्रू एल्गोरिथम, राइट? और जो हिस्टोरिकल एलोकेशन रहा है वो रफली 40% लार्ज कैप में, 40% मिड कैप में, 20% स्मॉल कैप में रहा है. दैट इज द हिस्टोरिकल एवरेज. बट ये हम ट्वीक करते रहते हैं डिपेंडिंग ऑन द अपॉर्चुनिटीज, right? As I've already covered, try to focus on time in the market. आप कितने ज्यादा टाइम तक इन्वेस्टेड रह सकते हैं, rather than कि मैं 5% या 2% करेक्शन करके थोड़े better price पे घुस जाऊंगा, that really doesn't help anyone. And we have people, they have shared that they have missed out on the recent moves, and that can happen. There at times can happen कि correction भी आपने पकड़ लिया, but वो उतना ज़्यादा help नहीं करता है really. And lastly, rebalancing frequency of 1 month, जो बहुत स्लो भी नहीं है, हम 3 महीने या 6 महीने नहीं रुकते, या बहुत फास्ट भी नहीं है. आई थिंक इट्स वेरी यूजफुल इन स्टेइंग अप टू डेट विद द करंट मार्केट कंडीशंस. अभी एक क्वेश्चन ईशा किसी ने आई थिंक बजट के बारे में भी पूछा था. So what happens is we do not have any view on the budget, but what we know is budget में कुछ भी होगा, it will get reflected into the stock price and it will be captured. It will be captured in fundamentals थोड़ा सा slowly and technicals या prices बहुत जल्दी. तो इसीलिए हम हर month update करेंगे, it will very well get captured. हमें यहाँ पे ये नहीं है कि हम जैसे पिछले कुछ इसमें बताया कि हमें हमेशा ही अल्फा जनरेट करना है. दैट्स नॉट आवर व्यू कि हर मंथ जो बेस्ट स्टॉक्स हैं हमें वही पिक करने हैं, और वी रियली कैनॉट अवॉइड कि हमारे स्टॉक्स में करेक्शन ही ना हो. दैट इज गोइंग टू हैपन. आवर स्टॉक्स आर गोइंग टू गेट करेक्टेड. ऐसे भी बहुत स्टॉक्स होंगे या सेक्टर्स होंगे जो हम मिस कर देंगे. हमने पास्ट में भी किया है. वी आर नॉट ट्राइंग टू बी द बेस्ट कि सिर्फ टॉप मोस्ट स्टॉक्स पिक करने हैं. ठीक है, our methodology is very stable, very sustainable over long run. तो हम year on year एक good solid returns produce करना चाहते हैं. हम we don't want to be at the top. This is the best portfolio जो सबसे बढ़िया returns produce करता है, क्योंकि उसके लिए फिर हमें risk भी बहुत ज्यादा लेना पड़ेगा. तो I think what the point I'm trying to make is overall methodology अच्छी है, बहुत solid methodology है, इसका live track record है. The way we have tried to create is कि एक रिटेल इन्वेस्टर को बहुत ज्यादा अपना टाइम ना स्पेंड करना पड़े स्टॉक पिकिंग में, because that is what we are doing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
So I think I tried to answer questions regarding budget, regarding timing, regarding expensive stocks, almost all of the things I have tried to cover.
Right.
Really would not like to cover any stock specific views.
Okay, sure, Vivek. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you, like you mentioned, that we don't aspire to be at the top. And also, what I've personally seen is that there is no one player who's always at the top. No one portfolio that's always at the top. It's
Yeah.
a good portfolio would be amongst the top 3, 4, 5, but otherwise there could be cases where someone is doing really better in one market regime, the other one is doing better in another regime. Like we've seen that momentum works better in bullish markets, whereas value and low vol would be good in bearish markets. So
And we are going to underperform. See, I've shown you 2022 में for the first 6 months, we did not produce any alpha. It's okay. We are fine with it. Obviously, we are trying to improve our algorithm, but this is going to happen. This happens with any good portfolio, and this is going to happen with the Gulaq as well.
Right.
Even I think there's quite I also saw some comments about current markets this month and today, all of that. I think if you see this month, and I've taken into account today's prices also. So this is as of today after the market have finished. The markets are down this month about 1.5%, and we are up about 9% or so. So this month also it's going pretty good. It's in fact very good. I would not expect every month to produce 8-9% of alpha, and we might end up. We don't know. We might end up at same place as multi-cap. We might not have any alpha this month. I think it's okay, and this is maybe this is to be expected that there will be many months. Last year also we had 3 to 4, I think 3 months where we underperformed.
Right.
Yeah.
But we should look at the long term. Like anyone who's evaluating should look at the long term returns and not focus on the short term.
Yeah.
Right. And Vivek, regarding the the all-time high discussion, there were a couple of questions about how to invest, whether to do SIP or lump sum. And then people are asking questions. They're also stating, for example, Vineet Singh says that they want to put lump sum amount, but not getting the opportunity. Then Hemant Raj says, is SIP better? Either whenever portfolio is down and there is some correction. So how to go about lump sum versus SIP?
I think the best way, if you have some lump sum amount, So most of the investors, I think they receive their monthly salary, and it's a very good habit to save a part and put it in your portfolios wherever you are identified, right?
Hmm.
So that's SIP. Obviously, it's a very good methodology. It keeps you disciplined and it builds your wealth over time. So that's
Right.
pretty good. But I
Hmm.
think the question here is more for the people who have had, let's say, a good bonus or they've received some lump sum from somewhere and they want to invest.
Hmm.
So they are thinking, and most of the people, what they try to do is कि यहाँ से I'll wait for maybe 10% correction और मैं अपना 50% डाल दूंगा जब 5% correction होगा and another 50% जब 10% correction. So they are dependent on the market levels.
Hmm.
That's how most of the people plan out uh, to invest in their lump sum money. I think that's not a very good approach because आपको कभी नहीं पता कि वो 5 या 10% correction हो भी या ना हो, and then you'll be sitting outside the market, right?
Right.
So that's not a good approach. I think the best approach, if you have lump sum, is divide your money in, say, either 3 or 6 parts, and for the next 3 months, do SIP of one third, one third, one third, or for the next 6 months of 1/6, 1/6, 1/6.
Hmm.
Pick any approach, 3, 4 months or 6 months, and every month you keep on putting money. And in between, अगर आपको लग रहा है कि एकदम से बहुत ज्यादा करेक्शन हो गया है, तो you can put in all or increase the pace of shifting your capital to equity or whichever funds you want to invest in. But I think that is a better approach, time dependent approach rather than price dependent approach.
Hmm.
So that is what I like to say about lump sum. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's my take on it.
Perfect. Great, Vivek. So I'll also take some questions while we have some more questions in the form that we can address. But just to pause, because there are some questions from the YouTube live also. While we covered some of the topics, I see one question repeating. So, for
Yeah.
example, Abhishek Das, Vineet Singh, Soul Stories, they're all asking that if this churn strategy is working well, why do you want to make a change and reduce the churn? A lot of, I think 4 or 5 people have asked that same question.
So it's not a major change. See, incremental change we'll always keep doing,
Hmm.
right? So this is more like an incremental change where we are focusing more on the churn, and it's not that it's going to impact the returns.
Hmm.
That is what I think people are concerned. Even I, as an investor, is always concerned about this. Key returns may, because we are getting good returns, it seems to be working pretty well. Why change it? It's more incremental in nature. It's not a major change. It's just focused on the churn. And second thing is, churn कम होगा तो obviously there are a lot of people who are on brokerages where they are actually paying a decent part in the brokerage, and obviously slippage is there. So what's it's going to help? See, always we are trying to get better at the things we are doing in our job, and at ST we are just trying to improve our portfolios. This is not really going to impact the returns. It's going to help us in the stability and in the cost of transaction, cost of slippages. So it's
Right.
not really something to be worried about. और हम ऐसा भी नहीं करते कि सिर्फ एक बैक टेस्ट किया और हमने मॉडल चेंज कर दिया. We
Hmm.
take huge amounts of care, back test kiya hai, we follow all the, because we have been doing this for 10 plus years, we understand how these back tests works, how we should be implementing those back tests or the findings in the current or the new portfolio. So
Hmm.
we do take huge amounts of care whenever we are upgrading our models, and this is part of the process. Every year, maybe 2 to 3 times, we keep on upgrading our models a bit to make them better.
Right. And I think that's
So,
why it's taking time.
in
People are
fact,
asking.
it's not final yet. But
Hmm.
what we are going to see is, even in terms of returns, the new portfolio is slightly better.
Hmm.
So, we'll take everyone through what that new model is when we actually launch it.
Yeah.
But in terms of returns, also, I think from what I know, what I've seen, uh, the returns would also get better.
But I think, like you said, we take time and, thorough research, analysis, backtesting is
Exactly.
happening. That's why it's taking time. So while we did
Yeah.
mention it, but it's taking some time. It will take time to hone the strategy and then present it to you. So it like people are asking, again that when will you launch it? When will you tell us about it? So I think it's going to take some time.
Yeah. Maybe 1 to 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And Someone's asking if that would mean that we will plan to launch a new small case, or will it be the same one?
Frankly, see, we have obviously we have these gear 5, gear 4 small cases as well.
Hmm.
I really don't think we are going to launch any new small case, because the idea here is that new small case is going to be, see, we can have only one best model, right? If that new small case is the better version of gear 6, then why have gear 6 at all?
Hmm.
Why would we want to offer any inferior product to any investor?
Right. Right.
And that is why we do not have multiple models. Why we have these multiple models as to gear 6, 5, and 4 is because of the asset allocation. Some of
Hmm.
the people don't really want to invest 100% into equity, they are slightly more conservative. And that's why people have asked us to share gear 5 and 4 returns also. So here they are. The idea here is, if somebody does not want to take high risk, want to take some lower risk, for them we have gear 5 where only 80% equity is there and 20% is debt. So debt makes your portfolio much more safer. Obviously, the cost is returns. You'll have slightly lower returns, but it is much more safer also. So even if you see Gear 5 returns with the benchmark, now I want to highlight one point here, that the benchmark here, what we have taken is we have constructed our own benchmark where 80% is the multi-cap and 20% is FD. That's the benchmark. On small case, the benchmark that you see is 100% equity, which is really not the right comparison for Gear 5, right? So if you see the benchmark, since May 2020, we have grown at about 42%, whereas the benchmark is at 25%. Again, very good alpha over last 3.5 years.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, and yeah, and we have Gear 4, which we also launched. Gear 4 is even more safer for people who are even more conservative. Again, there's no point in subscribing to multiple Gulaq portfolios. You just pick one, because the stocks are same. It's just the allocation towards equity and debt which is different,
Hmm.
right? So a gear 4 plus a gear 6 is actually equivalent to gear 5, right? Here in gear 4, we have 40% debt, 60% equity. Again, 1 year returns in the benchmark is 18% versus gear 4 returns of 41%. Again, this is very good considering we have only 60% equity. So it's a
Yeah.
very safe version. People would have heard or read about all weather portfolios. I think we really don't talk about Gear 4 as much, but I think for people, I think it is a very, very good, solid portfolio, a 60-40 portfolio, which will actually work for the long run. So
Hmm.
many people, if you are really worried about corrections, I think Gear 4 is pretty good place to be in.
Hmm.
If
Right.
you really don't want to take as much risk as there in 100% equity portfolio, Gear 4 is a very good choice.
Hmm. Hmm. So I think Devashish is asking if you have any plans to launch a Gear 7 with greater amount and inclusion of greater risky stocks.
Not really,
Hmm.
because जो हमारी methodology है, we do take into account risk also. तो 100% equity में जो best risk adjusted returns हैं,
Hmm.
वो हम कैसे produce कर सकते हैं? That is what Gear 6 is about.
Right.
So Gear 7, not really. I don't think we'll be doing that. See, that's what the point is, कि अगर हमें 100% equity वाला एक portfolio देना है, so we
Hmm.
would just like to give one portfolio. Now, there are other managers where you, and we can also do that. We can create a momentum portfolio, a value portfolio, yeah, even large cap portfolio, which is really going to help us a lot in our business. A lot of people are going to subscribe to right now, क्योंकि अभी the noise in the market is mid cap, small cap expensive हो गए हैं,
Large
move towards large cap.
questions भी आए
It's
हैं
actually going to help us a lot.
Yeah.
Help us means in the business, lot many people are going to subscribe, but it's not really helpful as an invest for an investor. क्योंकि
Hmm.
कल को जब लार्ज कैप एक्सपेंसिव हो जाएंगे, फिर मिड और स्मॉल कैप में वैल्यू ज्यादा क्रिएट हो जाएगी, तो देन यू वुड बी नीड टू मूव.
Hmm.
Essentially बैकग्राउंड में हम वही काम कर रहे हैं इन गियर 6. दैट्स व्हाट वी आर डूइंग.
Right. Right. Actually, a lot of questions. I see one question repeating. This is slightly different. Mansubh Singh is asking if I want to double my current investment amount, how do I know what amount to invest so that the stock weightage remains as recommended? I think the answer is straightforward, Manshubh. You just have to add on small case. You just have to click on invest more, enter the amount that you want to invest. Usually for our year six portfolio specifically, the amount is around 6,000 or 5 to 6,000 and it differs. So you'll see it. You'll get a prompt when you try to add an amount of your choice. Automatically, it will suggest which stocks to add based on
Yeah.
the
And I
weightages.
think, Isha, what he's asking is, at smaller amounts, what happens is you don't get allocation to all the stocks.
Hmm.
आपका जो मॉडल पोर्टफोलियो से थोड़ा सा डिफरेंस आ जाता है.
Hmm.
But see, the point is that if you have, let's say somebody already invested 2 lakhs,
Right.
and if you put in 5 lakhs, so
Hmm.
that is about 2.5% of your overall portfolio. तो आपका 97.5% जो पोर्टफोलियो रहेगा वो एग्जैक्टली मॉडल पोर्टफोलियो रहेगा, एंड 2.5% थोड़ा सा उसमें इज गोइंग टू बी सम एरर, मे बी, इफ यू कैन कॉल दैट. बट वो
Hmm.
नेक्स्ट रीबैलेंस पे फिर वो फिर से एकदम मॉडल पोर्टफोलियो ही हो जाएगा पूरा. तो
Right.
आई डोंट रियली थिंक कि अगर आप छोटी अमाउंट डाल रहे हो, यू शुड नॉट रियली बी वरीड अबाउट कि मॉडल पोर्टफोलियो से थोड़ा सा ट्वीक हो गया है, बिकॉज वो नेक्स्ट रीबैलेंस पे एक तो ठीक हो जाएगा. इट्स अ वेरी स्मॉल पार्ट ऑफ योर ओवरऑल पोर्टफोलियो. And if you're putting in larger amounts, so anyways, that's going to follow the exact model portfolio. So
Hmm.
really don't be worried too much about this thing. Be disciplined. Only point that we say is not only about good luck, but whenever you are investing, maybe don't exceed more than 25 to 30% in any one fund, so that you have concentration risk. Think about that. Or on the opposite side also, some people just invest 25,000 and they leave it. And I've seen people who are having very big portfolios, 25%. वो 1 लाख का पोर्टफोलियो में अगर इन्वेस्ट करेंगे तो दैट्स जस्ट अबाउट 1% ऑफ देयर होल पोर्टफोलियो. और उसके बाद अगर वो पोर्टफोलियो डबल भी हो जाता है तो इट्स नॉट रियली गोइंग टू हैव मीनिंगफुल इम्पैक्ट. तो एनी पोर्टफोलियो, आई थिंक, इफ यू आर इन्वेस्टिंग, invest only if you are convinced कि you can invest maybe between 5 to 10% of your overall portfolio. अगर उससे भी कम कर रहे हैं तो it's better not do it only, I think.
Right.
So I think broad range is that is what you should be careful about. Yeah.
Right. Now, Abhi Vashni is asking this question, which I saw in the form also, why there is no ad hoc rebalancing in year six? We could have booked from the recent rally and avoided a 5% fall.
That's what I just answered, that we are not trying to pick small peaks and troughs. That is something that we cannot do. And
Hmm.
that question is just today. I think अगर हमने last week भी ये किया होता, last Monday किया होता, तो भी ये क्वेश्चन आता. और लास्ट मंडे से आज तक वो मे बी कुछ कुछ स्टॉक्स तो 20-30% भी और ऊपर गए हैं. So there
हाँ.
is no meaningful way of timing the market. We are not trying to say we'll pick the best stocks जिसमें करेक्शन ही नहीं होगा, हम एकदम बॉटम पे घुस के पीक पे एग्जिट करेंगे.
Hmm.
We cannot do that, frankly.
Right.
What we can do is over sufficiently large period of time, we can generate alpha.
Hmm.
And that alpha, I think we have been able to produce even this month, even after today's correction. I just showed that we are still up 9%. And I don't know whether we'll be up 9% or not. It could be 10-12%. It could be just 3-4%.
Right. Right.
Right. So yeah, don't look at these small time corrections, frankly. Nobody can, we are trying to improve, but we can't really pick
Hmm.
these. And regarding ad hoc, the second point which I like to highlight here is, we have also looked at the rebalancing frequency, why it should be only monthly, why not ad hoc. So if the markets are volatile, maybe you rebalance 3 times in a month. And if the markets are not volatile, maybe you don't need to rebalance 2-3 months. So we are exploring that kind of methodology as well. And if we are able to find a better version of Gear 6, even by using that methodology, we might as well move. But as of now, I don't see mm, us doing that in the near future. As of now, I think this is much more evolved, much more better version of, but better model, better methodology, what we have in place.
And while talking about returns, one other theme that came out from the questions in the form was our expectations from year six. So Pavan had this question that, what is the minimum CAGR expectations from my small case Gulaq year six? I really like he wrote my small case. So people feel it's as much as theirs as it's ours. So what is the expectation from the small case gear six for next 10 years, keeping the ups and downs of market in consideration? And same
See,
question multiple people have asked.
yeah. See, I'll tell you my expectation from my small case, and I'll also share what we have the data. So data may what we have seen is back testing. We have 12 years of back tested data. Again, back test. So take it with a pinch of salt. But the data shows us that BSC grew at 12%. Gulaq Gear 6 had a 31% CAGR.
Hmm.
So roughly 18 to 19% of alpha over 12 years. Now, I'll tell you my expectation from my small case. I've invested in Gear 6. What I am expecting is, again, maybe somewhere around 12 to 15% in BSC 500. And I think I'll be very happy if we are able to do 20% CAGR over next 10 years. So that is my expectation, roughly 20%. So about 6 to 8% of alpha from BSC 500.
Hmm.
Over next 10 years, I'll be super happy if we are able to do that. And this is what the back test is. So yeah, you can make your own expectations from Gear 6.
Hmm.
But I don't think you should expect 31%, frankly. Much more reasonable expectation is maybe 18 to 20%, I would say.
Hmm.
That's what I've told even at the time of launch. If we are able to get it, well and good. But I'll be happy even if we are doing 18 to 20%.
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Then now Abhay is asking, in the last webinar, you told the current AUM is around 200 crores, and even if it becomes 5 times, it won't affect the returns. So
Yes.
he's asking, if the fund is being invested through subscribers in their demat accounts, how can you say AUM is 200 crores? And this high amount of AUM will impact future returns in the future.
Yeah. Totally agree. I don't think we can do anything about this.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think really no comment. See, some of the people do would be investing, and our CAGR or our AUM has actually grown from that 200 crore quite substantially.
Hmm.
And I think in the near future, up until the time we reach 800,000 crores, really,
Hmm.
I don't see anything. And our model is also evolving. So what is happening is the lower churn that we are doing, the
Hmm.
lower churn portfolio, that is going to help us increase the capacity without impacting the returns.
Hmm.
So if earlier that number was 1,000 crores, uh, that number in the new portfolio would be even higher, right? So that's going to help us a lot.
Oh, okay. That's
Uh,
because the churn is less. The slippage would most likely be yes, less number of stocks.
exactly. So it can accommodate much higher number of customers and much higher AUM,
Understood.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the point is. But I think many people might be concerned कि जब ये बहुत ज़्यादा AUM हो जाएगा, it will start impacting their returns. I think we are really not after AUM. We want to provide the best returns to our investors. And if at any point we feel कि now is the time we should stop taking in AUM, we will actually do that. It's not that we'll keep on increasing the AUM. That is something that we are not really interested in. What we are interested in is providing the best returns to a good number of customers, and we'll actually stop it. But we are nowhere close to that right
Right. And I remember some in the live chat box today as well as in the form, there were questions on mutual fund, Gulaq mutual
now.
fund.
Yeah,
So I think that could be a interesting strategy. And we did have discussions internally around the same.
yeah, yeah. We did have because it's a very good mutual fund is a very good way of investing,
Hmm.
uh, and we are exploring that. But again, having said that, there's so many regulations. It's not easy. I just cannot get up and launch my mutual fund next month.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time. So we are in process, but it's still nowhere close.
Yeah,
It's going to take a
takes a
lot of
couple of
time, but
years.
we are definitely seriously exploring mutual funds as well.
Yeah, but it takes a couple of years, and I think till then,
Yeah,
we don't anticipate that the AUM will grow that much. Currently, we're at around 200 to 50 crores, but uh, the capacity, as Vivek has also mentioned, has increased to take it once we put in the new model. So we should have some time. And Vivek, just to answer, he was also saying that, how can we call it AUM? So correct, Abhay, you're right. We can call
yeah,
it AUA, which is assets under advisory. We just interchangeably use the word AUM because in PMS, we are managing the client's money. Literally, we are investing on their behalf. So we track AUM over there, which is like 1500 crores for STPMS. But in Gulaq, the correct term is AUA. So thanks for pointing it out. And we can start calling it AUA instead, assets under advisory. But we do get that data from small case, how many clients and
yeah.
what is the investment amount for each client, total invested amount. So we can calculate our AUA. Now, there was one question, Vivek, on goal planning. So Rishabh was asking that, say I have to buy a house in next 5 to 6 years, or some midterm goal, which takes around 15 years, let's say. Are you planning to curate such a small case also, which is for specific goals?
See, it's hard to do in this on this small case platform for us. We do have the methodology. We have worked a lot on how to advise people on either specific goals or overall multiple goals. So we do have that know-how. We have put in a lot of effort into that, but we don't have a way of providing that advice. It's definitely not possible through the small case. In its current form, it's not possible through small case platform.
Hmm.
But essentially, what it involves is a glide path. So what happens is, so let's say you want to buy a house 5 years down the line and another goal 15 years down the line.
Hmm.
And over time, what you have got to do is you have to keep on reducing the equity part and keep on increasing the debt part, so that when you reach your goal, you have almost everything in debt and no part in equity, because equity in the short run is risky. Whereas, so it could be, let's say, 3 years or slightly more. So let's say if it is 3 years, up until 3 years, you are maybe following 80-20, 80% in equity, 20% in debt.
Hmm.
And over the next 3 years, when your goal is about to arrive, in the next 3 years, you will take that 80% equity gradually to 0% equity. And for the next goal that you are already saving, which is 15 years down the line, so in that you can keep on maintaining 80% equity for next 12 years. And from 12th to 15th year, you will reduce. So this 3 year period is just for example, but in the methodology that we devised, it takes into account your obviously your goals, the time, amount of money, but also your risk profile, as to what your risk profile is, and then how important that goal is,
Hmm.
which I don't think anyone takes care of. Because let's say buying a car is obviously, buying a car or going on a vacation is important, but maybe not as important as, say, buying a house or saving for your kids' education, right? So those are the goals which you really don't want to take chances with. But regarding vacation, I'm okay to put it in slightly uh, riskier portfolio, so that it might grow, or it might be falling short by 20, 30, 40%. I'll be okay. I'll still take a vacation. I
Hmm.
might not go to Maldives or Lakshadweep. I'll go to Goa, right? But those are the things that we have taken care of in our goal methodology, but there's no current platform to provide that advice. Yeah.
That's great. I think Himanshu Goyal just messaged on YouTube, Gear 7, let's go. I think some people are out there who are very interested in taking high amounts of
No,
risk.
I think I had written it in one of the posts also,
Hmm.
that what is very important currently, if you want to generate good returns, and this is, I think, a super important point, maybe the most important point in today's webinar, is uh, to have reasonable expectations from equity market. What we are seeing here today, uh, that multi-cap index has grown by 30% CAGR since May 2020, and we have given 60%. This is not really, it cannot be replicated.
Hmm.
So we have got to tone down our expectations. If we have higher expectations, what that is going to lead to is committing a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors. हमको ये लगेगा कि यार ये तो 30%, 40%, 50% इसी टाइप के रिटर्न एक्सपेक्टेशन है, ये नहीं देगा तो आई लुक फॉर सम अदर पोर्टफोलियो, देन सम अदर पोर्टफोलियो, और उसमें होगा वही कि वी आर गोइंग टू रन आफ्टर द मोस्ट रीसेंट ट्रेंड विच इज हैपनिंग and it might fizzle out. So, having reasonable expectations from equity markets is very important. I think people who have entered equity markets in the last 3-4 years uh, have, most of them have unreasonable expectations.
Right.
Uh, I think that is, if you have reasonable expectations, you're going to do fine over long term. But if it is unreasonable, then you're more likely to commit a lot of mistakes, which is
Yeah.
going to hurt your portfolio.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I see a lot of questions on YouTube now which are repetitive, which we've already covered. So I would urge people who've joined a little late or just now to look at our rewind. This video will be available whenever you want to access it. You will see answers to almost all questions, that all kinds of themes that have come up during this webinar and the previous one. One question by Tushar, which is also slightly repetitive, that he has subscribed to Gear 6. If he wants to invest in Gear 5, does he have to invest again? Does he have to subscribe again? Or is there a facility to subscribe to the total plan of Gulaq Gears? I think just to clarify, Tushar, Vivek also mentioned, Gear 5 would have 80% equity and 20% debt. The 80% equity will be the same as Gear 6. So there is really no point in subscribing to multiple Gulaq portfolios. Our different portfolios, equity component remains the same. It is just the asset allocation that differs. So you should really think of how much debt you want to take. Like Vivek said, Gear 4 plus Gear 6 is almost equal to a Gear 5. So if you want some amount of debt in your portfolio, say 20%, go for Gear 5. No need to go for Gear 6 at all. That would be the answer. And that's the reason why the pricing also is different. One is this reason, the other is small case. That's what happens. Your different portfolios, different pricing. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. There was one question by Amit Kumar that sir, Gulaq Gear 6 में 60 and 40% का ratio कैसे maintain करते हैं?
60 technicals, 40 fundamentals. That's what we maintain. I think 60-40 most likely वही question होगा कि 60% कैसे. See, that's the long-term average that we have seen. So what we do is we have 130 factors.
नहीं, I think, sorry Vivek, sorry to interrupt. He's asking कि Gears 4 में, Gulaq Gear 4 में 60-40 debt, like I think he means equity to debt हम कैसे
Gear 4.
हाँ जी.
I think that is pretty straightforward, and it's a very good approach of timing the market. बहुत सारे लोगों को जो profit booking का लगता है, I think it's a very systematic, very good approach of allocating. And I'll explain you how. Let's say कि आपने 1 lakh rupees invest किया, तो 60,000 आपका Gulaq Gear 6 में जाएगा, which is equity part, and 40% is in debt. That debt produces maybe about 7%, you can say, returns on average over long run, 7-8%. तो अब 60-40 में क्या हो गया कि आपने लास्ट ईयर लेट्स से किसी ने स्टार्ट किया था गियर 4 में 1 लाख, तो अब वो ओवरऑल 44% बढ़ा है लास्ट एक साल में. बट क्या हुआ है कि तो 1.4 lakhs हो गया है, बट दैट 60-40 इज नो मोर देयर. अब क्या हुआ है, क्योंकि इक्विटी हैज ग्रोन बाय अबाउट 70%, तो वो 60-40 का मे बी हो गया होगा 80-20. तो 80% इक्विटी हो गया होगा, 20% डेट. अब जब आप रीबैलेंस करेंगे उसे, तो उसमें क्या होगा कि वो 80-20 का इट्स गोइंग टू सेल दैट 20 इक्विटी एंड पुट इट शिफ्ट टू डेट, तो वो प्रॉफिट बुकिंग हो रही है. तो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इज कि 80 से आप 60 में हो जाओगे और 20 जो डेट है वो 40 हो जाएगा, तो प्रॉफिट बुकिंग हो रही है. अब मार्केट अगर और ऊपर जाता है तो फिर से हम 60-40 पे आ गए थे, लेट्स से 70-30 पे आ जाते हैं तो और प्रॉफिट बुकिंग हो जाएगी. ठीक है, तो जितना ज्यादा मार्केट ऊपर जाएगा, विल कीप ऑन बुकिंग प्रॉफिट एंड शिफ्टिंग टू डेट. एंड लेट्स से मार्केट स्टार्ट्स करेक्टिंग, व्हिच कैन हैपन, राइट. तो जब मार्केट्स करेक्ट होगी तो क्या होगा कि आपका जो 40% इक्विटी 60 मे बी 50 हो जाएगा और डेट 40 बढ़ के 50 हो जाएगा, क्योंकि इक्विटीज ज्यादा करेक्ट करेगा, डेट करेक्ट नहीं कर रहा है, इक्विटीज करेक्ट कर रहा है, तो वो 60 से 50 हो गया है. तो व्हाट विल हैपन इज आप बाय कर रहे हो, आप डेट से फिर शिफ्ट कर रहे हो इक्विटी में. और करेक्ट होगा तो आप फिर से डेट से शिफ्ट कर रहे होगे इक्विटी। So it's a very good way of allocating your capital, whether it's 60-40 or 80-20, but have some debt, have some equity, and keep on rebalancing your portfolio maybe every quarter. That is what happens in Gear 4 also. And what we have seen is, I think there's a one very famous data point regarding US, because US has much more history in terms of equity and debt markets. So last 40-50 years में अगर आप देखते हैं, so that 60-40 portfolio in that is the all-weather portfolio in US that has actually beaten the S&P also. It is much more stable and the returns are very good, much better at least better than S&P, right? So you're taking much less risk. So I think that's a good thing to follow. So even on Gulaq.com, if you go to, there's a tools section. In that there's a risk survey. I think that is one thing that everyone should do. Take that survey. You'll get to know roughly what's your risk appetite, risk profile, and what is the gear you should be invested in. अब आप खुद से भी मैनेज कर सकते हैं। लेट्स से आपका गियर 4 आता है, या तो आप गियर 4 में ही इन्वेस्ट कर दीजिए, या फिर आप गियर 6 में इन्वेस्ट करके 40% खुद से आप डेट फंड्स में या एफडी या किसी में भी आप उसमें डाल दीजिए। तो आप कैसे भी मैनेज कर सकते हैं, बट one should try to roughly follow that asset allocation. It's quite important.
Right. Thanks, Vivek. So Rishi is asking in the chat box, why do you caution against putting all your eggs in one basket? I've been observing Gear 6 for the past year and have confidence in it. What are the potential risks?
See, potential risk वही होता है कि हमें बहुत सारे रिस्क का पता ही नहीं होता। Like COVID happened, right? In 2020, अगर आप जनवरी में बैठे हुए थे, अगर आप जितने भी इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंक्स एनालिस्ट का अगर आप रिकमेंडेशन देखते, कोई बोल रहा था 30% बढ़ेगा इक्विटी मार्केट, कोई कितना बढ़ेगा, nobody would have priced in or thought of this kind of risk. So there's a famous saying, risk is something which is left over after you have thought of everything, right? तो रिस्क हमें सारे रिस्क अभी जो शॉर्ट टर्म में है, लेट्स से पता है, लेट्स से वन ऑफ द रिस्क इज यूएस गोइंग इनटू रिसेशन, उससे क्या होगा, और बीजेपी नॉट विनिंग नेक्स्ट ईयर और दिस ईयर नाउ, और मे बी रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर और ज्यादा बढ़ जाती है, और कुड बी चाइना which goes into recession, right? There are multiple type of, these are the risk which mostly everyone would have thought of, जिसकी वजह से correction हो सकता है, but then there are risk which nobody would have thought of also, और इसी के लिए वो बोला जाता है कि to diversify, बहुत ज्यादा भी diversify मत करो, but at least diversify, because you would have not thought of those kind of risk. That's why diversification is there.
Makes sense, Vivek. So I think two similar kind of questions that are coming now is Rohan is saying that isn't 20% expectation from Vivek more conservative for higher risk? I think flexi-cap mutual fund or mid or small cap can or has given more than 20%. So our expectations, are they less than the mutual fund?
It depends on the time frame. When you are saying कि flexi cap has given, what we have just showed is, जैसे BSE 500 है, over last 12 years, the returns are 12%. ठीक है? I would much rather have a conservative view and be surprised to the upside, both in my financial planning and overall in returns, rather than have a much higher expectation and be disappointed. Right. No, so that's my personal view. You can assume, even if you want to assume higher returns, you can assume that.
Yeah, totally. I think just to add to this, Vivek, like Rohan is mentioning that 20% expectation is lesser and Flexi has given higher returns. Similarly, Gear 6 has also given higher returns in the last 3.5 years.
Time frame. I think it's the time frame. If you look at the shorter time frame, obviously Flexi Cap has given higher returns, but have a look at larger time frame of 10 years. And then you would see, obviously, again, the point is कि हो सकता है even in short term Flexi Cap has given, but what we have also seen is these active portfolios. Active portfolios are the ones which are trying to beat their index, their benchmark index.
Right.
So what we have seen is maybe almost 20-25% are only able to beat their benchmark. Rest 75% underperform. तो अभी आप hindsight bias है इसमें हमारे स्टेटमेंट में, क्योंकि हमें अगर पता होता 3 साल या 5 साल पहले कि ये वाले फंड्स आउट परफॉर्म करेंगे, किसी को पता नहीं होता है. देयर इज सम प्रोबेबिलिटी अटैच्ड टू एवरी परफॉर्मेंस. तो ऐसा ही गुल्लक गियर 6 का भी है. वी आर नॉट क्लेमिंग हियर कि वी विल बीट द बेंचमार्क next year or next 5 years or next 10 years. The probability is not 100%. Some people might put the probability at 50, some at 70. So वही again going back to the point कि जो एक बायस अभी हमारे दिमाग में क्रिएट हो जाता है, which is short term bias, कि हम शॉर्ट टर्म डेटा लेके वो एक्सट्रापोलेट कर देते हैं फ्यूचर में. तो अगर मैं लास्ट 1 साल का डेटा लेके एक्सट्रापोलेट करूंगा तो
गियर
इन
6
10
में बहुत
years
रिटर्न्स होंगे.
exactly at 70% CAGR or even at 40-50% CAGR, it's going to be huge. But we really don't know. We are not claiming ki Gulaq Gear 6 will beat. It is also possible. The probability is not zero ki we'll underperform the market. Right? So be aware of all of these points when you are investing.
Right.
So better to look at longer term duration to make your analysis, make your judgments rather than short term. And even 3 to 5 year is, I think I will put it in short term. So Gulaq Gear 6 का 3.5 years का performance है. It's maybe medium term to short term. It's not long term.
Yeah. Very well put, Vivek. So I think another Abhishek's question that Gear 6 has given 60% CAGR, but it is not possible in long term. If it is not possible in long term, does that mean we will get less return or negative to balance it out in the future?
I wouldn't say negative or less. What I would expect is that every year, obviously we are working a lot. We are working a lot on improving our models, and our models have evolved over last 3 years. तो जो मॉडल 3 साल पहले प्रोडक्शन में था, based on that, if we were still using it, it wouldn't have been whatever 60-70% that we have returned. It would have been lesser actually. So our models are also improving, and over that's what I'm saying. Keep your expectations conservative. I won't say we'll return to the mean and we'll have overall in the long run we'll have zero kind of returns or anything like that. But it's better to keep your expectations moderate. And we are certainly working hard. What we can comment is not that we'll 100% of the time beat the market, but what we can say is 100% of the time we'll be committed. We are going to be honest, transparent, and committed that we are going to work hard to improve our models and do the best that we can. That's what we can commit, not the returns.
Right. Now, Vivek, two other themes that have come up even in the form. One was that are we moving money to cash to control risk in extreme bear market?
Yeah. So first of all, we don't know whether bear markets are coming. If we know for sure, we'll definitely move to cash.
Oh, we will move to cash, you're saying?
If we know for sure.
That's important. That's
yeah. So if we know for sure, definitely we'll move to cash, but we don't know for sure whether the corrections are going to happen. So the way we reduce risk is again through our multi-factor methodology, which will actually give us a hint, or which will tell us through data that now, okay, might be the correction has started and we should maybe shift to safer factors. Abhi jaise momentum and growth are the factors mostly which are working well. If corrections start happening, we automatically see he will maybe shift to value or low vol as factors, which work well, relatively work well in a downward market. And indirectly, it's going to shift to what that is going to lead to is shift to safer stocks. That's how we reduce risk. As I've shown you, 22 May or 23 May, how we reduced risk by moving to large caps, and we were able to produce alpha. And then in 23, we took maybe higher risk. But whenever we are talking about risk, see, it's all relative. So the risk, and I personally like to see risk in terms of how much we are drawing down, how much is the pain we are causing, which is the maximum drawdown. And what we have seen is historically our pain or the maximum drawdown is lower than BSE 500, right? So I think in this portfolio, the risk is lower than BSE 500 in terms of maximum drawdowns. It is lower. Yeah.
Sense. Okay, now coming to another theme that was people asking about the recommended amount, ideal amount. So, what is the lowest, what is the ideal, and what is the maximum? These are three kinds of questions that have come up.
So, because it is fixed price, whether you invest 10 lakh or 1 lakh, the price remains same for you. So the higher you invest, the more value you are getting, the more bang for the buck you get. So the higher it is, the better. Obviously, think about that 25-30%, उससे ज़्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए. But the higher it is, the better. In terms of fees, you're getting better fee structure. Lowest is obviously 25,000. That's what we have kept for people to try it out and see how this works overall. But at 25,000, if you pay maybe about 5,000 in fees, it is almost 20% of overall AUM, which is very high.
Yeah.
So the ideal is maybe about 2 to 3 lakh in that range. I think in that range, your fees would work out to be 2 to 3%. So at least, even if you're starting with 25,000, what we say is try to reach that 2 to 3 lakh level as soon as possible. उससे अगर आप नीचे रहोगे तो रिटर्न्स आएंगे, बट आपका फीस is going to take away a big part in terms of percentage. So at least try to reach that 2 to 3 lakh level. And after that, the higher it is, the better fee structure it will lead to. So somebody who is investing 10 lakh, उसके लिए fees is not even 1%. Yeah.
Right. And is there a cap, Vivek, on the maximum one should look at investing in Gear 6?
See, Gear 6 typically, the way we have structured is obviously because this is more concentrated in nature. We want people to invest only smaller amounts. So anyone who is investing, reaching close to say 50 lakhs, there we have more diversified product in PMS. And what we recommend is if you are reaching those levels, it's better to shift to PMS, which is more diversified, more stable version of Gear 6 only. And there's not too much difference in returns over long run. That's what the expectation is, frankly, that the returns difference should not be too much in terms of long-term returns. Yeah.
Right. And just to reiterate what you've always been telling people, even in the last webinar, that investment should be like not more than 30% or 35% in any one portfolio.
Yeah.
So people should divide it. And I think Amit has built up on that. He's saying that he has segregated the portfolio into three categories, three multi-cap portfolios, including Gulaq. But he's seen that 10 to 20% of the stocks are overlapping across the funds. So in that case, should he just keep two funds with 50-50 allocation? He wants to just keep everything simple and easy. That's the kind of person he is. And he has to keep it easy to manage.
If you want to take, the risk would slightly increase because having two funds versus three funds is slightly higher risk. But I think if anyone reaches 5 funds, and most of them, if let's say all 5 are mutual funds, what happens is over that 5 funds, you will typically have about maybe 200 to 250 stocks. And then you are pretty much invested in the index only.
Right. Yeah.
More or less.
Over diversification.
So that's over diversified. 2, in my view, is slightly concentrated. But if you are the kind of person who likes to take those kind of bets, the risk increases, but you can obviously do that. What we recommend is 3 to 4 funds is, I think, good enough diversification.
Yeah. Got it. And maybe, if he's saying that he's investing, all three are multi-cap funds. So maybe to look at a different strategy, because if all three are multi-cap, there could be chances that there is more.
But I think the diversification is also in terms of methodology. So if most likely your mutual fund is not a quant-based methodology, there the methodology is different. This one is different. So that also builds up to a good diversification of how your funds are selecting the stocks.
Okay, so as per you, it's okay if someone is in all three are multi-cap, or should it be like one index, one multi-cap, one something else?
No, I think multi-cap or flexi-cap is really fine. It's a pretty good approach
Mm.
uh, to invest. Yeah.
Okay. Then taking some questions now from the chat again. Some are repeating. So, guys, there are lots of questions repeating. Please rewind the video and look at the answers we've given already for these kind of questions. A new one which says, if I want to invest more, should it be before rebalance or after rebalance in each month? I think Vivek, you did touch upon this. If you could.
Yeah, I think not this time, but see, if it is just few days left for rebalance,
Hmm.
then maybe you can just wait. So less than a week, if it is left for rebalance, maybe then you can wait, but
Hmm.
not more than that because there's some expected positive returns and you'll miss out on that. So if it is 2, 3, 4 days left for rebalance, yes, why not?
Hmm.
Wait for the rebalance. But if it is more, then do go ahead and invest. Yeah.
Right. Ravinder Kumar is asking how to redeem partial portfolio without disturbing the balance of small case. So partial withdrawal also was asked in the webinar, sorry, in the Google form. A lot of
Okay.
people asked that question, how to withdraw partially or fully. So I think small case does give this option. When you want to withdraw, you click on the relevant option and they will withdraw money also in the same proportion as per the weights of the portfolio to ensure that it is very minimally impacted. And then in the next rebalance with the remaining amount of funds in the portfolio that you have, it will automatically get adjusted. Whatever slight upar niche would have happened will get adjusted. That should be fine. Any plans to launch US advisory, Ronak is asking.
Yes, we do have plans, but and we have been working on this for quite some time now. I think we are not fully ready to launch that specific portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
We are very conservative in launching any new fund, and that's why I don't think we are fully ready. But when we are ready, we'll definitely launch. There are plans. It's going to take some time, but we are working on that.
Right. Um, Supriyo asked few questions, out of which one is there any chance of getting some loyalty benefits for staying invested in the small case for significant period of time?
So returns is not good enough. You want more. But
Yeah.
frankly, see, it's good that people are trusting us and people are loyal. It's
Hmm.
really good to hear. And as much as we would like to do something, I think as on small case platform, I think we are limited by what we can do.
Right. Yeah.
Is there a
Yeah.
way, Isha? We can think about it. Definitely, I think we can think about this. Good point. We'll think, but on small case platform in current form,
Yeah.
I don't see any choice, but definitely I've noted this down. Let us think and get back.
Sure. Sure.
But I think returns is good enough benefit.
So Priyo has a lot of other suggestions for, investing in small cases in general. So,
Okay.
what the small case team does. So we've noted everything down and we will
Sure.
definitely pass on the feedback to small case, all that he's mentioned. I think Vivek, on the themes in the form, we have covered everything in some way or the other. Now let me go back to the YouTube chat and see if there's anything. Okay, people are still, debating on free rebalances, whether they should be frequent, whether there should be an ad hoc rebalance. So we've covered that. A lot of people are exchanging notes there. Um, what else? Any plans? The new model. Okay. Okay. So Abhishek Das is saying, please give a clear answer whether the new model will be implemented in year six only or new fund is coming up.
Yeah, we already answered. I don't think we are going to launch any new fund.
Hmm.
Uh, and the reason is, as I've shared earlier, if the new fund is better, why not offer it to existing Gulaq Experts customers?
Yeah.
So a new fund is not coming. It's not a major change in what we are doing things. That's why no point of launching a new fund. It will be Gear 6, improved, slightly improved version of Gear 6 only.
Hmm. Perfect, Vivek. I think we've covered almost all the questions that are there in some way or the other. So maybe we can call it a day. And next webinar should be pretty soon around the corner after the rebalance, of course, few days
Yeah,
after the
after the
rebalance. Perfect. So thank you so much everyone for joining, and thanks a lot, Vivek.
Thank you,
Answer.
Eesha. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.